everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today I'm going to be showing you how to paint this painting. It's a landscape called Winter's Calm. This is very based in a classical Russian landscape style of painting. Actually, that's totally where I pulled this color scheme from, and I'm so excited to show these techniques to you today in acrylic paint because this would be traditionally an oil painting. On the mic today is my husband, John.
Hi, guys.
And he is going to be tracking me with cameras. And yes, he did get the camera fixed. He's going to be tracking me with cameras, making sure you don't miss any part of what I'm doing. So if you're trying to paint this at home, you can see the things you need to see to succeed at your artwork.
Mm-hmm.
How's everybody doing today?
Very good. Very excited to be here.
I'm excited to be here, too.
You know, it's like catching a unicorn, catching you alive. You know, you just never know if you're going to be able to do it.
It has been lately. I put on the magic today because I was like, we got to be able to come out.
We got a lot of new people here for the live. So
do we? Hello,
yeah.
all new people here for the live. We teach people how to paint. It's super fun. You're gonna love what you can do.
Yep, you're gonna have to be buttonless for a second here because I left my coffee in the other room.
Oh, okay.
So I was just
Well, I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about this painting. So we're using some really fantastic and historical colors here today, and we're doing it in a way that you might see in a very traditional classic style of landscape oil painting, specifically out of Russia. And basically what happened is one of you guys turned me on to a group of artists, and I did a deep dive on that, and I was looking at all these landscapes, and I was saying, you know what I love about everything here, besides the fact that, they're all amazing, is I love these colors. I would never paint in these colors. And so it really kicked something off for me. The two colors we're using a lot in here is Prussian blue and Indian yellow. These really bring this painting that sort of old world feel, even though we're working it in acrylic. Of course, there are exchanges. You could use any yellow you have. You could use any blue you have. And all that would happen to your painting, as long as you got the values right, is they would have different colors, but it would be just as gorgeous. So don't let not having a particular yellow or not having a particular blue completely stop you from the joy of creating your own art. John's back.
I am back. I found the switching buttons.
Pep talk over. All right, so I have an 11 by 14 canvas board here, and I put some wishes on here.
It's been pre-wished.
It's been pre-wished, because I stalk you guys, and then I see your wishes, and I put them on the canvas. We have a wish from Amber, and this is just for her family to have a good holiday that's full of joy and abundant love where everybody feels okay. And then after reading that, I was like, I would like to wish personally for this particular season and honestly into the future that all the families around the world have enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I just genuinely mean that. Enough water, enough food, enough safety, enough shelter, just enough.
Enough hugs.
And hugs, enough hugs. You got to have enough hugs. Just all over the world. I'm wishing for that. We have a wish for Karen to have her health and well-being kind of like come in return. Katie wished for maybe my favorite wish suggestion in a while, free chocolate all around the world.
Yep. I thought that was a good one.
I really liked it. Of course, we wish that Sanja gets fast healing and a happy birthday. It's a happy birthday. I hope you see this. I hope your friends tell you that we wish you a happy birthday. Donna is wishing for good health. And this one actually came in from Tiffany, I think, which is that, and this really kicked off for me, I wish that we find work and respect for people that are differently abled.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all the wishes on the canvas today. Let's look at what we're starting with.
Yes.
Now, if you check the description below, there's a link to the webpage. It's got all the materials and the traceable there. And also in the description below, if you click the more, is all the paint colors and things that we're using today to create this painting. I have over here just a black gesso that I'm going to paint my whole canvas black with first to give it some depth. And I'm going to just use a number 12 bright. Right? All I'm wanting is a brush that's synthetic and is big enough to put on all my gesso on my canvas. And I'm just going to paint this black. Could you use black paint? Yes, you could. Could you use an economic black paint and then paint your more expensive paints on top of it? Yes, you could.
Mm-hmm.
Lots you can do to make your painting work for you. If you don't like the black, another underpainting you could do is a brown, like the burnt umber. that we have in this painting.
Yeah.
Just painting it in. I don't have to really worry about anything. Like to change up the brushes on you so you don't know what's coming.
Mix them up.
Mix them up. Tools are wonderful, and it's important for artists to have tools, and good tools are essential. But don't let the tools become more important than you.
Absolutely. What's the most important? What's the best brush you have?
The one you use.
And what makes it magic?
Because you're painting.
Because you're painting with it. Because it would just be a stick if it were sitting there.
Yeah. Without you, yeah, it's just a fuzzy stick.
It's yeah.
You just need some googly eyes and a raincoat. Now you know what I do with my old brushes secretly. So I get asked a lot of times, especially if I do one of these gesso coats on the canvas, is if the canvas needs a gesso. And here's what I'm going to say on gesso. I have a whole quest on gesso, but one of the things that I would like to say is that gesso is just a surface preparation. It's just trying to make the surface more pleasant for you to paint on. It's absolutely not necessary, and if you don't have gesso and you want to cover out an old canvas, you can just use paint. Just acrylic paint. It will stick to itself.
Yeah.
So don't get too wrapped up in that either.
And Tommy...
Just be super relaxed.
Yeah, so Tommy was asking, why not just buy a black canvas?
You could totally do that. Sometimes they're on sale.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think the coatings on the black canvas in economy canvas is better than the coating on the white canvas in economy canvas. It's an opinion that I have very strongly started to form.
Yeah.
I'm going to put out my paint colors now.
In our case, we didn't have one.
We didn't, what?
We just didn't have a black canvas laying around.
No, and they just haven't run a sale. We've been there. We just haven't caught the sale.
Yeah, and we put the wishes in this one, so yeah, that happens.
And it works out.
It works out.
Burnt umber.
Wishes. Burnt umber.
One of my very favorite color combos in the world.
Which
is
one?
Burnt umber and cad red light. I just love it.
You know, that's very kind of similar. I can see that. I like that sunburst orange, which is kind of cad red light, and phthalo blue. Is it phthalo blue? Yeah. That when those two get there.
And you like yellow ochre.
Yeah, and yellow. Oh, yellow ochre and phthalo blue is so good.
I love real cad. Which is not being discontinued.
Yeah,
it's just more options.
Someday
there's my Indian yellow, which I just adore.
I'd like to get another Datsun B210 in avocado with the Indian yellow interior. I had one, and I missed that car. It was an automatic. It had about 2 horsepower.
Yeah.
It had with air conditioning on, and it was amazing. It was.
You just loved it.
I loved it. That was one of the saddest cars I got rid of.
Now, one of the things that can throw you off if you're painting with both the white and the zinc white is telling them apart.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, remember that you can label a palette. You can always go in and label it. Uh-oh, this one's got a plug in it or something.
It's
just not going to work. I'm going to go to my backup.
You have backup tubes?
I have a backup tube. This is also zinc white.
Yeah.
Just a different company. Backup tube. All right. So I have the titanium white here and the zinc white. If ever you need to tell the difference when you do the zinc white, see how transparent and almost pearl bluish it is? Yeah. That's how you can tell it's the zinc. The titanium looks like this.
Now, you're mixing golden and Holbein paint here.
Yes.
And there won't be any problem with that at all.
No, you can mix acrylic paints unless it's a weird acrylic paint like the kind that's, believe it or not, there's a weird oil-based acrylic paint. And then...
What? Oil-based?
Very
okay,
unpopular.
Sorry.
And then there's a bunch of slow-drying acrylic paints. And now Golden's Open is fine for all other acrylic paints. But you just sort of have, like, if it's a weird thing. But other than that, all the acrylic paints work
all
together.
art supplies are valid. All art methods are valid. Yes. There's just some of them are new to us.
So let's go over our palette. We've got our burnt umber. That's a very historic color. That's maybe one of the oldest colors that you would find in painting. We have Prussian blue, which is fantastic, and there has a whole interesting tie-in to blueprints. We have cad red light. This is a modern color. We have Indian yellow. We have Mars black. We have zinc, old color, and titanium white, which is new because mostly they won't give me lead white because of the death.
Because of the lead.
Because the lead.
Yeah. When they say lead paint, they were talking about lead white paint.
All right. So I really need this to be dry. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this with a hairdryer.
Okay. Boo! She surprises me sometimes with that. I don't know, make sure. So, thanks guys for coming and hanging out. Well, yep, we got lots of people here in the room already. There were 330 people, so thank you guys for coming and painting on a weird Friday afternoon. This is one of those, really lovely sort of winter landscapes that you don't really get to see except during the winter months. Of course, you don't get to see a lot of winter landscapes during the summer months, as I wax philosophically going, you don't get to see this very often except during the winter. And I'm like, well, duh, John.
There's a cool one that uses this coral in the sky, in these gray skies. I love this combo. I'm still kind of working out how to do it, but I'm adoring it. All right. So I'm going to make my horizon line. And what's wonderful in a landscape is normally you see me get out my T-square because I'm doing water, and we cannot have that be all wobbly.
Right.
But a landscape, fantastically, can be a little bit wobbly. So I'm going to just make a little line across. It's going to sink down just slightly in the middle. On your traceable, I put the line straight across for you guys so that you can sink it yourself as you want to. But it's more important that you have the basic structure.
Yep.
So once I have this sort of set up, I know this is my, ground and this is my sky, and I can start laying in my painting with my favorite part of that. So this is the Mars Black, and I'm going to take a scrubby brush. I'm going to take a number 10 Cambridge Brights. This is a number 10 bright. It has synthetic and bristle filaments in it, so it's both, which makes it really good for acrylic. And first, I'm going to mix a little of my yellow to my black over here. See how we're doing this?
Yeah.
Now this, and I want to have it come back to black, but I want to be able to distinctly, when I pull back on it, see a bit of that yellow cast. That's what I'm wanting, is the yellow cast. So that when I add it to the white, there's this warmth to my gray that I'm registering very well. Now, this part of my canvas is going to be quite dark, and I'm going to come back and add some black to it in a second, but I want to start just brushing my stormy day. This is my stormy day up my canvas. A little more black into it. I just need the hint of yellow. And it's going to be getting lighter and lighter and lighter as it's coming up my canvas. Now, you can see how painting it black underneath already is helping us. Toning the canvas is a really good thing you can do to help create finished, rich landscapes. There's a lot we can learn from oil painters, even though their medium is very different than ours. Some of their processes are super useful. And I'm just lightening this canvas as I come up, adding more white to my brush, and just making sure that this is getting lighter up here. I adore this type of dark at the bottom, light at the top winter sky. It's been a lot of fun for me designing these, and that has been a huge factor. I want you to notice when I'm loading my brush that I go pull, 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 and I will pull into the pigmented area that's still wet, and then I'm coming across, and this action, what I'm doing here, believe it or not, is loading paint into my brush, making it easier for me to paint and giving me a longer time at my canvas with the brush because I have more paint in here. And it's perfectly okay on this sky. See how I'm doing this sort of like back and forth with this brush scumble? That's one of the great gifts of these brushes, is their ability to do this scumble. Load, 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 load. Just making sure I like it. You can't really not love your sky enough, because everything you do to it just feels like clouds or storm or something that's brewing. Now I'm going to kind of rinse this out. And I'm going to just a little white over here. And I'm going to blend this color. You can see because these were close together. Even though it's dry, it's blending well. One of the acceptable acrylic blending methods. So my black and my yellow and a lot more black. And then I'm going to wipe off, and the whole rest of this I'm going to do in just my black. And you're like, but that's a second coat of black. Yes, yes it is, but it'll look so nice, it's worth it.
It gives it a different, sort of presentation. That it's hard to explain how, blacks are, all these colors are not equal.
Yeah.
And the reflective nature, how much they absorb light, they reflect light, even amongst the yellows,
Oh, yeah.
You guys are always asking, can you substitute CAD red medium with CAD red light? You sure can, but it gives a completely different look.
And that's okay.
And it is okay.
As long as you have your values right, you'll still get a nice painting. It just may not have the same color scheme as the painting that you're liking. If you're painting the painting for the color scheme, absolutely pay attention to the colors used. Oh, that's a good way of looking at it. So if you're painting a painting because you love the colors in it, that's what spoke to you, I would definitely never exchange. I would use using what's in the recipe. If you like that cookie, I'd use those ingredients. But if what you like is the design, right, then I would absolutely feel like, all right, well, I can change up this yellow for yellow ochre. I can change it up for CAD yellow deep or Deluride or some other color that I have. And it'll be a twitch different, but as long as you just like the design, you're going to be super happy with your landscape because it's still going to look like what it is, a tree in the snow in a field.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a really different landscape than what I usually do because it's a complete, other than I had references of trees in winter or of bushes in winter, this isn't a real place.
Right.
Yeah, I made it up.
This is the fantasy place.
Mm-hmm. So it's very romanticized. Now I'm going to kind of sketch in my stream.
Sketch
Because that's a very important object that's bisecting my canvas. And I want to just make sure that I've got it sort of worked out, where it's going. Kind of like the little same. And that can be kind of like crazy when you're doing these. Making sure I got my little mound. Got a little mound here. Gonna pull back. It's nice to use chalk to sketch things in. You can use charcoal on a white canvas and affix it, and then paint over it if you need to. Sort of make this bank come out this way. I guess it came a little more over to the right. You can always use your reference to be like, where does it end? And then you'd be like, match the same thing.
I'm just using your reference because it's right there.
Because
so you brought it over.
That's why
you brought it over there, so we'll just use that one for now.
Okay. I'm going to use it right now just to get this drawn in.
No, it's great. Like, look, you can see over on your screen how they look great right there next to each other.
I'm just trying to get my basic shapes so that my stream feels. I want my stream wider down here a little bit.
So Gregory asks a very good question, and I don't know the answer to it, but I wouldn't even guess an answer at it.
Oh, okay.
So he has CAD red light and CAD red dark.
Okay.
Can he mix them to make medium?
No.
I didn't think so, but
that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I would have. It was just so intuitively I would have thought, yeah, but no, it makes a weird color, doesn't it?
Not a weird color. And I'm going to go do it to see what it does because I haven't done that in a while. And I don't have it on my color chart because all I have is CAD. We don't have CAD deep.
Okay.
So, yeah. What I would do is I would mix them and see what color it gave you and is it a close approximation of what you're looking for? And if it is, then use that.
Right.
But like the CAD light is more yellow, and the CAD deep I think is more crimson. So I'd have to pull it out to look at it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
To be sure, that would be necessary. All right, so I got some objects sort of thought out and in here, and I'm thinking about some stuff. One of the things I can do is start to maybe block in my snow and then get my trees blocked in, which is super fun. Let me see what size. I'm probably gonna scruffle along this whole time. Number 8, Cambridge. I just wanted something a little easier to, you know, kind of. I'm gonna get a little brown into my Prussian and a little white. I love this color. And I'm going to start putting in my landscape. I'm starting with this deep color. I'm going to come back with like layers and layers and layers of values. Right? But it's nice to get this cool base in. A little more of my brown over here. See, I'm graying this back. I can't talk. I'm graying this back. I'll maybe go a little dark here. I'm not going to put my little snowbanks against the trees up until a minute. I'm just going to rough this out. Snow has so much texture. It's nice to rough things out. But I'm also trying to think about like the shape of the land, the banks, how they play together. This one will be just lighter than the area next to it. Not only is that going to help you keep your design in, but it's going to help brighten things up as they would coming towards you. So this is like a blocking in period. We're just getting it in. And I'm not having precious, brush strokes here by any means.
Yeah.
Maybe add a little black to it as I'm lightening it up. Now this is different than what's next to it. So now we're kind of building up this land here. So you see I take this lighter value and work it. And that makes the shape of these two little snowbanks that are happening. It doesn't really find its balance to get your little bush in. You need your bush. Along here. We're just getting this first layer of all important color in. Snow is very colorful. And I think sometimes with the modern paintings we forget how colorful it is, because a lot of times, in a modern painting sense, we paint snow really as a value study. It's black, it's all kind of monochromatic, one kind of color scheme that we just work out the values. So it's really great to look at classical painters, especially those that painted outside, because they would talk about these things as they saw them, and so things would tend to be much more colorful and interesting, in my opinion. But, nobody's hired me over at Sotheby's, so keep that in mind. Adding a little brown snow.
And I just, as random thoughts go, I want to just say thank you to all of our community and everybody who's hanging out here with us, because you guys are here, we get to do what we're doing, and that is to share art with people all over the world, and that's just a magical gift that you guys give us by showing up. So thank you.
I'm just pulling this area in lighter as it's coming forward. What's nice about this, and you can see I just take this back and forth, I'm just roughing these in so I can see where they are. And even in roughing them in, grabbed a little lighter color there so I could patch the difference in the banks. You just see me just going back and forth. I'm not caring that a lot of this canvas is showing through. In fact, it is my friend that it's doing that.
Now, could you talk just real when you're done putting that basic in there? Could you show that the sharpener you used for your chalk again?
Yeah.
There were several people who were like, "Where did you get that magical tool?" And so,
that little sucker. Oh, it's over here. This is Faber Castell. This is just, you can get these on Amazon and stuff. It's the one that has the colored pencil one and then the universal sharpener. But really what you're talking about is a universal.
right.
So whatever sharpener brand you have, whether you find it at Walmart or whether you get it online or whether you get it in your art store, just make sure it says universal, and it should work with your chalk.
Yeah. It does fill it with
Is
chalk
chalk
dust.
good for your sharpener? I can't imagine it is. It's pretty
No.
abrasive, but
No, it's like you're gonna chew that thing up fast, but it works really good.
yeah.
Really good. But yeah, you're basically just taking a piece of stone and putting it in there and rubbing it against the razor blade edge.
I kind of came into that particular one almost accidentally because it came with another set of pencils and things. So see, this is just a mildly lighter value.
Oh, Julie just asked a very, very good question, a blast from the past, so to speak. She was like, "John, do you have a Tim Hortons where you live?" You have to go way north to find that.
No, we actually we do a lot. No,
Nobody
we've done. Here's what I'm going to say. I love Canada.
Yeah, and
I love it.
Nobody
Y'all have the nature and the beauty and the majesty and the walking everywhere. It's pretty awesome.
You also have all the Tim Hortons, and nobody here knows who Tim Horton is.
But I have to say, like, just to own, like, a little civic pride, I feel like the USA fries dough like nobody else in the world.
We got some donuts down, though. Yeah, we do got some good donuts.
I mean, if you're talking about adding sugar and gluten to frying it, like, that's like our jam. We're like, what can we fry? The Snickers. I think we can dip it and fry it. Let's see.
Although what I have to say is that Canada has embraced the ubiquity of donuts as an all-day necessary
I appreciate that.
So it's like, where can you roll in and get some, some donut holes at midday with some, I'm just saying, they got it. Bravo. Bravo,
so I'm
Canada.
going to come across and start laying in the basic kind of effect for my stream. And this is just about pulling my pure Prussian blue, actually in this case, right over my black, right? In horizontal. You notice I'm being pretty picky about the horizontalness of my brushstroke right now. Now we're going to come through and pull some down and do some different stuff that's going to show it's a reflection. But right now we're just trying to get this deep, I'm so frozen value happening here. And then we'll be playful. Because again, it's very dirty, very busy, lots of stuff happening on it. You're on thin ice. I notice even here, like if a little blue gets on my bank, I'm not freaked out about it. I got to put a lot of paint on there, so there's no point in. It's much more important that I work out what I think I'm doing than anything else. Now, this is an interesting area because it gets so small in the distance.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to come to the corner of my brush, and
they're wanting me to know that Michigan has Tim Hortons.
Does Michigan have Tim Hortons?
Which I don't. I guess that's maybe fair for Michigan because they have to deal with more Canadian shenanigans. Maybe.
What are Canadian shenanigans?
I don't know.
Is that hockey season? Is that your way of saying people are growing their game beards out?
I would just say that between, like sort of, United States and Canada, we've got Detroit there. We've got a whole lot of, there's just been, hey, they sacked our capital twice. There's been a whole lot of shenanigans between the United States and Canada. And, I'd say Michigan has maybe, had a fair share in it. So they can have Tim Hortons.
All right, I'm going to rinse out my brush. The one danger during this painting is that your water can get quite dark. And so I may have John at some point change out my water, and you may want to change out yours if the black gesso overpigmented your water or your paint is doing that.
Yeah.
If you're noticing that, when you go into your white, the water's muddy and it's impacting how white your white is, then you need to change it out. All right. So now I'm going to start doing my little background trees, which are super joyful and are essentially, and I love this, a little of my cad red over here, and then I get my Indian yellow into my brown. Oh, so good.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of work them together, and they're just a joy. I'll wipe it off. And I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to just build up a little tree. So I'm on the corner of my brush. I want to suggest something crazy to you, which is that every brush paints a tree. Every brush paints a cloud. Every brush paints a rock or a glass or, a landscape. They all have methods and techniques of which you can create nearly any object out there.
And when a bell rings, a fairy gets her wings.
That's right. It's just a big deal. It's like every brush makes a brush stroke, man.
I just had to throw that in there.
All right, so I'm coming down. I'm making these little bushes. I've got a little more yellow. See how a lot of my black background is showing through this? The transparency of my paint here is really helping me. If you were to change colors and your paint were to be a lot more opaque, right? This might be a little harder to get. You might need to add some glazing medium to get the same effect. I'm going to put a little bush up here. I see a little guy here, and he's got a little friend distantly there. Now I have some nice, isn't that nice, these little bushes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're far away, and they're, does that show for you? Gosh, it really shows for me, and it's like, and then I look over yours, and I'm like, where is it? I'm going to dust my brush with a little bit of cad red.
RoboCam's picking up a bit better than the primary camera.
Oh, man. And primary camera is just having some trouble today.
Primary camera's a little sad.
We're having a day. So I'm going to come back here. And I'm just light. And hopefully you can see me just
it's just
dance these little distant trees.
So just peek over your shoulder there and you can see.
Oh, okay. So I don't know. I can't see it at
all.
all.
Oh, yeah. It's right. Your camera. It's right. You have the other monitor.
I have the monitor that can't see anything.
We need new studio parts.
So what you should be seeing is an almost distant, translucent, amber kind of tree coming out of the depth, out of the cold winter.
It is there. It's just the bushes are somewhat emerging now. I don't know if you've ever been out in the cold like this, but, I went hunting in Missouri and it's a lot like this in the early parts of the morning, and you can just barely see those bushes emerging from the darkness out there in the cold. It's a lot like that.
It is, and it somehow still feels very inviting. It doesn't feel depressing. It feels so lovely.
It is. It's very nice to be out in that crisp, cool air.
And we forget about how these cool colors play against what's left over in the fall colors. As the leaves go brown and and they haven't quite totally come off.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. And also, what happens? I just love all of it. So I'm going to start building up these little distant banks. I'm going to take a little of my black.
And no, I am the most
over into my blue.
I am the most unsuccessful hunter ever. Never ever actually shot or killed anything ever, and probably never will. So we've taken to camera shooting.
That's okay.
It's okay. Just not worked out for me. So
we're not all meant to do everything.
No, it's okay. It turns out it's probably a better thing because some of us are just better suited with the camera.
So you can see I'm just wiggling my brush back and forth, and I'm dropping a dark kind of dynamic snow pile that's going to be over here. I'm going to come over on the other side. Now, obviously, what's going to make it a nice dark dynamic snow pile is that we add a little highlight to it that we can see distantly. But we're just trying to say that here there's been some gathers.
Some gathers?
Some gathers of the weather. And I'm going to bring this back a little bit in the shadow. Pushing this back is really rather nice. Back a little bit. Okay. A lot of that's going to go behind the bush. I'm not going to rinse my brush off. I'm going to come in first. I'm going to try my zinc here. If you don't have it, use your titanium. But see how it keeps the color the same? It just lightens it. So you can get like a hair value up, but keep the color. I'm not having to pop into the... See how that's distant?
Yeah.
The reason I like this is because later, when I'm going to use titanium, it's going to... A couple of places that you'll put it, it pops, which is really rather lovely. I'm just coming along the top of this and roughly letting some highlights exist here, like you do. And I get a little more of my zinc, and I'm going to come here and I'm going to push back. Too much zinc. Too much zinc. Just a little bit. This little, see how this is kind of coming back then? Pushing that back. Try to trim my stream so that it's just a little dark value far, far away. I'm going to softly brush back and forth. And I'm going to let this be kind of rough. And see how it started to make it a distant hill. Over the other side, let's do some of this work over here, because we'll like the result. So nice to paint some snow, especially if we're not actually standing in it. And I just want you to think that the work that this is inspired by, people were actually standing in the snow. I don't even know how they made the thinner work. It's so confusing to me. So I'll have to just watch some more Rick Nicolero and see what I see. So it's just going to be, I'm going to be definitely coming back to my stream, making little micro adjustments because it's important. What's happening here? I like to just make sure that it's coming in. And
now you're using a bristle brush, right?
I am using a bristle brush. I really like them in landscape painting sometimes. You can use any kind of brush you have. Like I said, every brush makes a thing. I just like the scruffy nature of this. And there's not a lot of bristle brushes that are, I think, that friendly. I'm going to get a small number 2 filbert. I'm going to see if I can't. Where are my glasses? I must have had them over there for the traceable. I'm going to come across and just make some value here. A little stream personality. So this is the black and the Prussian blue. And what I'm doing is I'm making sure that my water that's disappearing here, my frozen stream, has that feeling of a frozen stream. So it's really about balancing the values that are in the distance. And when I did this, this actually probably was the more fiddly bit that I messed with.
Yeah.
Out of everything I had going on. I'm just coming along here and I'm just making sure that it's the smallest. It should be almost diminished, like a hint of hair or shadow. And then as it becomes closer, it can take on some more depth and dimension. Okay. Because this is just a distant, you don't want it that light. It's just a distant space. So once you have that, and you can, and I'm going to be using these a lot because I need to be able to see it. I don't want to fatigue out my eyes. I'm really liking that. And I can add a little personality to the snow back there.
Yeah?
Yeah. Let's do that, right? So I'm going to take a little of my, crazily enough, my Indian yellow into my Prussian blue. And I'm going to add, that's a little too green. Too green! Back out, it's too green.
Now, this is interesting.
Just add more in there. I got to get I want a little of the hint, but not an obvious green. I might even put some brown in there. I get some of my titanium white now, which you can see is a lot more potent. Ah, here we go. A little more burnt umber. Sneaking it in. See, I'm pull. And it's kind of muted. But I got my titanium in it, so it should be. I'm going to just brush this over here. See that?
Yeah.
Just brush. I'm letting a lot of what's underneath show through. Even taking some of this and scumbling this up here. That's a lot of paint you wouldn't normally necessarily think of. And I'm coming on, I've got the brush upside down and I'm just adding this little highlight here randomly. Like I'm just pushing it around. So I'm coming down, I come up, I come down. Let's bring this back. I'm going to leave it cool back here and kind of static. I just want most of my energy to be here. And now we have these distant little, really nice little foothills. Right? And you can get a little more white on your brush. Maybe even a little more brown. There we go. More white. So see how it's warmed with the brown? I'm going to come and put just a smidge of bank highlight. And it can't be too bright. I may have to switch back into the zinc. But I'm going to just go on the edge of my brush and sort of make sure I put in a small hint. Just a little bit of some bank highlight right here and maybe starting here. See how it's going? Push a little of that back. Doesn't take a ton. You can grab even a little zinc sometimes and make some soft. That's too much. Softer than that. There we go. Little soft area. See, that's like a little bit of a... Every time you sit there and you play those back and forth, what it does is it creates a little bit of dimension and depth. Now you're starting to see some... I got this stream going far away. I got these weird trees in the background. I'm starting to build up some landscape. I have to soften this crazy strong line right here. As you can see, it's not really here. So we're going to get rid of that. We're going to take our blue and our brown again. Maybe my zinc. I'm going to just take this here and make sure that I'm
Now, there's a question earlier about the stream. I just wanted to...
Oh, yeah, happy to answer.
When doing a stream like this, is it necessary to keep the water horizontal?
Okay, so what I will say is that unless the stream is actively moving, right, or there's something that's disrupting its natural tendency, water finds a level and it flows down, right? So if you're thinking about those things, then to do that in perspective, it's not that different than the stream that we put in. So if, and I'll get rid of this, if I have a lot of strokes like this, unless I make them look like a reflection, which is great, it will take away the stream. So I've got to just make sure that whatever I'm putting in looks like a reflection, because the stream isn't going to do this at any point.
Yeah.
Ever. See, that does not look right, does it?
Mm-hmm.
Diagonally across that stream. So you can put some different lines, you can put some verticals, but you have to make it look like reflections. And you want a lot of your predominant travel direction. It'll be as if this stream froze in motion, right? And that's all we're saying. Is that it froze, branches, dirt, whatever it has, it's in motion. And so other than the bank, you have bank shadows that'll come down, and you have some different reflections that'll happen. And you can talk about all of those as much as you like. It's super fun. All right, let's put in some bush. I like putting in my little bush. It makes me super happy. Now, if you really struggle with trees and you're taking yourself up to the 3 hoot, I'm going to give you this little tip or suggestion. Right? So we can see this tree is right here. Right? And we can see that it's in this bank. It's kind of here. And it comes up to about here, doesn't it? So you know how large the size is. If you have trouble, I'm going to draw on my canvas here. When you're painting the tree, don't try to paint every little dab. Make sure that you're trying to talk about the shape. This shape is actually what is saying tree to us. See this? And you guys see the outline, the contour line of it?
Oh, yeah. Especially when you outline it with that chalk. That makes it like...
Right. So I feel confident doing this because...
You can erase the chalk?
You can erase the chalk. very easily, especially if I have clean water, but even if I don't. So that's kind of the shape of the tree that you're actually painting. You have your darkest values here. You have some warm kind of reds and oranges here. And so you're like, all right, I got to have these dark values, and then it comes up, it gets kind of lighter and older and deader, and then, you know, we can put in some grass and some really cool branches. And every time I paint a tree, they're going to be a little bit different. I just want you to sort of think about these shapes that you're contending with while you're doing this. I'm going to take a little of my black and blue and my burnt umber. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to start talking about this deep value. I know I've got this dark area of snow coming down, right? Because the grass is in it, and this is cast, you know, not only just a physical shadow, but there's an environmental shadow that trees cast, if you think about it, where the light isn't getting there, and the ground and depth and foliage and fauna is different than what's around it. I don't know if you guys have ever thought about that, but there's those two kinds of shadows. The physical functional shadow where the sun is, and then this sort of environmental shadow. Hopefully that's interesting. I love that. I'm just making sure this is super deep. I'm grabbing my brush in, and I'm just making sure I'm getting this really deep, and I'm going to get some of my black, because it's so deep here. There's a little friend I'll be doing later, but I've just got to do this kit right now. I guess you can put his little friend there. Environmental. Maybe there's some of this dark shadow coming up here and some here and a little bit up this way. And so I've started to get my dark values in. I can rinse out. Now I'm going to take a little of my had red light and my burnt. I'm going to come right here. Again, still deep values, and I'm just making sure I'm paying attention to the shapes and shadows that I'm seeing in this tree. So this kind of comes out and dances out. Let me put a little of this up here. Now, without rinsing off, I'm going to get my Indian yellow, and I can even get some zinc. And I'm going to start putting some of my other more interesting light tree shapes. Like up here, I might put a few little leaves. They're coming out. And see how my brush sort of dances and skips canvas?
Yeah.
And pushes it out. So what that's saying there is that there's branches that are so small we don't see them.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Right? And so you're like, okay, well, I don't see those branches, but I see the basic shape of maybe the collection of the leaves. I'm just making sure that I'm coming in here a little. If it's a deeper value, then I'm going to go more in the center of my tree. Put some leaves out here. Everywhere I shoot little leaves out, besides, you know, really kind of talking about the shape of this kind of shrubbery tree, everywhere that I'm pushing these leaves out, you know, I get to put branches in, so that's always exciting. May not be exciting to everybody else, but it's always exciting to me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to put a little guy out here. Come out. I'm just on the corner of my brush. By cloud, I could be like dab, 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 dab. It's just you could be scumbling. There's a lot of ways to get this in. Every brush can do a tree.
Now, Miss Jess was just asking, do you always use a reference picture?
When I'm painting?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in a sense, yeah. Of course, there are times when I might paint and not have anything in front of me. I might be just painting straight from my concept imagination. In general, though, if I'm designing and I'm trying to go, okay, well, where is the lighting on this tree? Even if I'm making up a fantasy landscape, I'm going to look at reference photos of trees and similar lighting and go, how do they light and how does that look? Or if I'm trying to paint maybe in a style, I might look at a bunch of artwork in that style and cool techniques and stuff. I don't try to, I'm not Google. So, and you're probably not Google. I mean, you might have an eidetic memory, but mostly we paint well what we see. So it's good to do some studies, some value studies, some thought studies. I really like that white chalk around that tree. Makes
Turned out really nice, didn't
sort
it?
of interesting. Sorry. Right? It adds a dimension. See, this is how artists develop styles, and they're like, I could put white lines around all my trees. Anyways. So that's sort of how I work, is like, I don't try to remember all bushes. I'm going to push this little yellow down here. Just a bit. All right, so now I need to give myself some extra values. So let's take a little of my pad red and my Indian yellow. I've just misted, so I probably have too much water on my canvas. Smidge of my brown. All right, there we go. We're just warming up some of these little leaves. They're a little more, a little more pop. Fun stuff. Dance some of this color in there. Not everywhere. It doesn't have to be everywhere. Just saying there's some of this here. Maybe there's a piece of it right here. Little. Always fun to see how you can talk about something. I'm going to get a little more of my black and come push this deeper value. Deeper. You hear what we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, maybe there's some right here. Some brown. I'm going to add a little of my too much cat.
Too much cat. Oh.
Wasn't careful. I'm just going to pull that up with my brush and then just, see, since everything's wet underneath, I can just push it out again. So if ever you have like a boo-boo like that where you're like, oh, I don't like that, about it, you can push it back. Now, lastly, to give this tree a little pop, I'm going to take a little of my zinc into my Indian yellow. Not a lot. Just a pop of it. And I'm going to pop just a couple areas. I have too much on my brush. Let's soften it up. So what's nice about the zinc is it's very transparent. And so it's easy for you to find some leaves. And you want this to be distinctly still Indian yellow. Just a few. That maybe caught some, something. And sometimes, like, even like when things are dead, they also shimmer. So that's nice to try to capture some of that in that space. See if you can pull it in and work it out.
Yep.
So that's what I'll be doing. Is I'll be like, oh, I'm going to do a little Indian yellow. And then I'm like, nope, too much. And then I just come back with my burnt umber. But it rich in the colors the way I was wanting. The bigger goal. All right. So when I'm happy with my tree, I'm going to, I think I need another little brown here though. Remember I put that in there. I'm going to make sure I put it in now. Part of my undergrass. Always nice to have that. You need a detail brush. And what I'll say about tree branches is that definitely soft body paint helps sometimes to thin to give you enough coverage, but thin the paint out enough for you to be able to see it.
Yes.
So it can be nice to put out next to like a color you're using. Like I'm going to put out this black next to my blue. And then I can very easily get in some branches, and I might even put out some of this soft-bodied white. You guys ask a lot, like, what's an inexpensive alternative? Craft paint. is an inexpensive alternative. So I'm just loading up my brush, and you can see I'm grabbing a little Prussian and a little of my black. And I'm doing the same thing I do with my big brushes, which is I'm pulling in and flipping. But I'll rub off and usually load up on the tip of my brush. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we branch. So when we're branching, I'm going to come from the middle of my bush. And I'm going to just paint a primary branch up. Now I'm getting away with this because the fluidity of my paint is such that I can go pretty far with one stroke. Now I'm going to come here, and I'm going to come almost away from this a bit. Make a nice little tiny little branch right here. I'll dip in some water and thin if I need to. And then I'm going to kind of curl one out. Maybe curl another out. Come right here and take one up, maybe curl one out. You see how we're doing that? But we're not even necessarily attaching it to the main branch here. But I'm going to take one here, a little joint, bring this up, and let's curve that little guy out. Maybe curve another one in an opposing direction. So we're talking about this a little differently than maybe we have in the past. All right. Get another little main. So see how that's also going up?
Yeah.
It's kind of enforcing each other. These trees that we're doing today are different than what we have traditionally done on the channel, in that we're painting them as you might paint a tree if you were out landscape painting. We're not just relying on value changes and any of that to make the composition. We are going to have to highlight and add a multitude of values and shades and make sure that they have the character that they need to have. You need a little weird dude over here. Might be a little break there. No. You need to thin the paint on your brush. You dip in water, rub off, and reload. Then you'll be able to see how these just kind of come together and feel very branchy.
They do.
They're so branchy.
And the black is a little hard to read on the canvas, but you can see it there. It's really interesting how it creates that that it's just very dark values right now.
Yes. I just made this branch way too thick for where it is. And you notice that I'm just taking water in my brush and erasing it down to the thin branch that I originally wanted. Ha! Yeah, you can do that. You can totally do that.
Oh.
All right. So now that I have all that sort of in, then I'm going to get a little of my white. Oops. And I'm going to come add on. See, we kind of implied a little bit of light. And so I'm going to come over and sort of respect that. Make sure that I come along this branch with this little highlight. It's just a little bit of white mixed to my blue.
Oh, sorry. I totally thought I was on the wrong screen there. I was looking at the preview screen instead of the program screen there. Could you redo that again and show me?
Yeah, I got to do it a bunch, so we're here for a minute. No. What I'm saying is no worries.
I
You
know.
got to do it a lot.
I know. I just I apologize to everyone who's watching because it's if I end up looking at the wrong screen there because I'll glance at chat and then glance back over and then I'm realize I'm looking at the wrong one. So
That's okay. It happens. No worries. So I'm going to come through here and I'm going to just make sure that I'm adding these little highlights. Right?
Yeah.
And so these little highlights, what they're going to do is they, make my little branches, now they seem like they're reflective in the world. And you can always put some of these lighter branches just in your little bush here. It's just nice to highlight all these a little bit. I don't even necessarily bring it down the whole branch. You can even go get just a little more in your white and make just some little twigs. They're happening. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
All right, so we've got some twigs. We have some branches. And, we've got some value, which is all we're looking to do.
Yeah, it's coming together.
It's coming together. So my first layer of grass really is going to be a little of my burnt umber and my Indian yellow and a little of my zinc on this very scruffy little brush. And I'm going to just pull this up so you can see I press in and stroke up. And I allow the bristles to really create the effect I'm looking to make. I've got just a little zinc on here, just so that we got some highlights. I'm loosely mixing. I mean, you can see it's like super loosely mixed. I'm just making sure that the grass, it comes down here. Good to have some right there. Need to paint some snow between these two, so I'm not going to add the grass here yet. But I can come here and talk a little bit about a little bit of grass there. And maybe a little bit about unlet bank. You could kind of talk a little bit about something here. Start putting in that first thought about it. So I've got that in. Now, once that's in, what I like to do is I'm going to come back and make some detail values with both a little bit of a dark paint and with a light paint. So first I'll come with a little of my kind of Indian yellow mix, and it's got some of this fluid in there, so it's going to come off real nice. I've got it loaded on the tip of my brush. You're going to just add some of these little highlights. Right, because grass does that. Make them light, long, and unruly the way grass can be. And when I have those in, I interestingly like to come back maybe with like a little black and brown, just something super deep.
Now, is there a way to make titanium white more transparent like zinc?
So if I didn't have zinc and I just wanted to paint, I would use any of my mediums, my glazing medium, my gloss gel and medium, soft gel, just anything that I had, and I would make it more transparent, and I would just try to flub it. They're not exactly the same, and I really like the zinc. I think it's worth it, but if you can't get it, thin your white.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, artists painted before they had it, and they painted after. Like, let's like lead white. They painted after lead white. All right, so now I've got some values of some different landscape in there. You can come back and even layer them up a bit. And it's nice how they do, just to give it some dimension. Okay, isn't that lovely? Just layer up there. I'm taking a darker color and muting that back. And then it just creates this sort of space. I also think it's sort of fun to grab a little of this and be like, as if there was like, I don't know, you know how some plants have like little stalks that they send up? A little texture there, as if that's happening. Which I like. Really like this white outline. I need some fresh water, if I may, Mr. Cooney.
Absolutely.
Before I get in my big tree and the rest of my snow. My big tree is a lot of fun to do.
Yeah.
So you can see why this is a 3 hoot. There's some layers.
Mm-hmm.
There's some stuff, but it's doable, right? If you understand all the processes that get you there. Hopefully.
Yeah.
This is where I'm at right now. It's just too dark.
Too dark. Water.
And I've got a lot of snow to do. And so I just want to make sure that I have a clean water source to take care of my snow so that I am deciding the color of the snow. The pigment in my water is not deciding the color of my snow. And if you're painting with student paint, you almost don't want to use water at all. You want to make sure that you're hoarding all the pigment that's in your paint, because that's how they cut the cost of the paint, is to give you less of the more expensive product. So, you know, that means less coverage for you sometimes and having to do more coats and all of that, which is fine. It's just little tricks that you can do to make it go longer, is to just not thin it out too much with water. So sometimes if I'm painting golden but you're painting a student paint, you know, be like, well, she's using water, but I think I'm just going to use a medium or some other agent to thin. I'm just rambling.
You're a good rambler. You're a good rambler.
I'm a good rambler. That has some good rambling.
You can ramble and I can push buttons.
So you got to take your painting in, and sometimes when you take it in, you'll see stuff. You'll be like, "Oh, I don't, you know, I like that, or I don't love that," and you might be like, "Oh, I'm gonna maybe add a thing here." I just feel like this could stand out a little more right here. Just some parts of this. I don't feel standing out enough. Make sure that we're feeling our bush. All right. So we're doing good. We've got our
Very good.
little deal going, and we can start doing our snow around it, which is super fun. So let's put in some snow. So our basic snow is a little of our burnt umber and some Prussian. And we'll start out lightening it with some zincs. We're gonna. Now when I get to the bank, I like to kind of curl my, can you see this? I'm curling my stroke here. This is sort of how I like to talk about that the snow is clumpy. I have just more little Prussian and zinc, and I'm lightening this up in stages. I don't want to be too aggressive with it, and then I'm gonna pull it up quite a lot.
Couple questions here.
Yes.
On paint.
I'm switching to my titanium white.
So I'll just get a couple here. Anne asked, how do you know what student paint is? And Nikki asked, do you know if golden Prussian blue says hue on it?
I have it, and I can tell you right now. And it probably should, because the process of making certain paints is either super toxic, the paint makers, or super expensive, and therefore only exists probably in oils.
Yeah.
So if golden has hue, that's because one of those two things are afoot, or the way to make it no longer exists today, like Indian yellow. There's a whole bunch of ecology trade banana leaf. There's a whole bunch.
Yeah.
So, right. So that's that on the hue, and then as for how do you know if a paint is student paint, generally some tells are all the paint tubes are one price. And the reason for that is everything in student paint is a hue. So the need to have paints priced at different amounts does not exist anymore.
Yeah.
I've got a little more brown on this side. So what I've got here is I've got this brown. It's much more brown. So I'm adding a little white to it, and it's still snow, but it's just much more muted. That wouldn't be there. That wouldn't be that bright. Wouldn't. All right, so once I have some of my basic in, I'm going to grab my white, much stronger. I'm going to just pump some of it. I'm like on the edge of my brush, just talking about my bank. Let's talk about some of it here.
They did use mummies to make mummy brown at one point.
They did, yeah. So you're not really going to see a lot of that anymore. Or, sometimes like we just don't have, maybe even it's an issue like trade agreements.
Some of the paint makers joke that they have, an arm and a leg floating around that they might be able to make some with, but
yeah,
they don't talk about that too much.
It's nerve-wracking.
Soylent Green took on a whole new hue.
So I've added a bunch of yellow to my brush and I'm wiping off, and I'm going to grab some of my white. So that's a nice sort of, you can kind of see this where there's like a little yellow hint to it.
I might jump in there. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so we got a little yellow. And that's really about the trees and other things reflecting around it. So get a little more of my brown on here. We're just going to be like, one of our phones is ringing.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Okay. So I'm just putting this brighter color sort of here. I'm pulling down. Just coming around. It's nice to have some of it. Rinse out. My forward hill here is going to have more, just blue. It's going to have more color on it than a lot of the other painting because it's up close. I am just adding a darker value at the base, so when I'm piling my snow up, it's good. All right, loading this up, putting my titanium white. Just adding this down here. So this is about, laying these little clumps down. Always mute this with a little brown. And then I like to just make sure I've got, some. There we go. Right there. I'm just going to do a little clump there. So if this is a hill, and you know where your light source is, it can kind of tell you where you might have a shadow or zinc. Where some of these spots might be. Running this here, so I've got my zinc, which is softer, picking up some of the color underneath it. You can see it doing its thing. I'm getting kind of rough over here at this front corner. Definitely want to bring this from back here. And I'm thinking about the hill, like how would snow fall down this hill, right? Got some just titanium into my blue. And you can see just adding these pops into the snow does quite a lot to say that we've got a nice snowbank happening. Super colorful, super fun. Now I've got some grass to put in. Some of the grassies. And we remember how to do that, right? So like a little of our brown and a little of our Indian yellow and a little bit of our zinc to begin with. And then You can even come and get a little more. Just hit that highlight. Look at that.
Oh.
Put them here. This definitely needs some. What does it need? It needs some grass. Just pull your grass up. Grass is challenging.
Yeah.
Eventually, you learn how your tools make grass. And you start making your own grass. And you're like, oh, I'm going to make some grass today. I feel grassy. Adding a little of my brown to my black. And I'm going to come here and just make sure that we've got some really sort of dark grasses as well. I'm just sort of edging that little bit of the... How's that?
Nice.
Making headway.
Yeah.
So now we're going to paint these other banks. We're going to put in our stream, and then we're going to put in our big, beautiful tree, which is where the predominant amount of our work is going to be.
Into the tree.
The tree. I'm going to get my bigger brush. And so coming along here, and I may be painting out my grass a little bit when I do this, and I'll just put it back in. I'm wanting to lighten some of this bank, but a lot of this stays very, very cool, right? I'm going to get my brush wet. Pull some of my blue out. I'm going to pull some of my brown out to tone it. I'm going to get some of my zinc. And I'm going to start lightening up some of my bank here. Lightening up my bank. And I'm going to come on the edge of my brush. You can see, and I'm going to just pull some snow back. See how it does? Pull some snow. Get a little more of my zinc. And if you had to, you could do this all with titanium white. It would just have some slightly less transparent layers, or you may even find yourself having to work a little harder to get the value changes. I choose to use the tool because it's useful for artists, for you. So here I did come back and look, I'm just going to take my brush and sort of swiggle it back in like a little S. Start to talk about the snow bank in that way. And doesn't that add a little snow flavor to it? We're getting there. Putting some of that little snow flavor in. I love the snow flavor. Now I'm going to get a little more of the blue color on my brush that I have, and I'm going to get into my titanium, making my bright colors. So see, this is, if you look at it next to the white, it's not white, but for the purposes of the canvas, it's our white value. I'm going to just take this brush along here and tip that. Maybe like say, hey, this is also there. I'm going to take my brush on its edge here. And you can use your brush. You don't think of to use them like palette knives, but you can. Just a few spots in the distance. Not too many. Bringing them forward. We're about to have a lot going on here in a deep value, and so when we got to put in our tree, we just want to make sure that our snowbanks have this sort of purpose. It could be nice right now to get a little of the blue into, take a little of the blue to the brown, but you still kind of want it brown. And I'm getting my zinc. I'm going to just darken the snow here like what I got. There we go. You can see that dancing around there, filling in those little shadow values that are happening. Such a fun painting.
Yes.
Such a fun painting. Do you feel like you're just like out in the cold, plein air painting. I don't, which is really good because I don't want to feel like.
I don't know. Everybody's really enjoying this. They're saying they can feel the weight of the weight of the snow.
The weight of it, because it's heavy on the ground.
Heavy snow.
Heavy snow.
You know, when you step in it, it goes, and it just sort of sucks your foot down into it, and it says, "I'm not giving your foot back."
Check it. All right, it's looking pretty good. All right, so let's start putting in our little stream value.
Stream value.
Which is mostly, here's a shock, our brown and blue.
A stream value that has nothing to do with the internet.
Let's get more into the blue. I'm using my zinc here. I'm going to start coming here. I'm going to go back and forth. Right. And I'm going to, I'm actually going to make this a little bit stronger than what's even going on in this one here. Because I want an even darker value at the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Because it would have a very dark value at its bank.
Yeah.
I'm just pulling this across. A little more blue. More white.
Julie was saying that you've nailed this little stream for those of us who as a kid have tromped through these backwoods and ended up with one cold boot.
Yes. This is definitely the one cold boot stream. So we're just coming along here. We just want to make sure that we're leaving our dark value. So what I'm kind of asking you to do here is to make sure that as you're lightening your stream, whatever colors you're lightening with, try to remember that this space where the bank hits and the ice hits, it's generally pretty dark. I'm going to just start scrumbling this out now into this space. I'm just scrumbling it, but I am paying attention that it's a horizontal scrumble, right? I am doing that. A little more blue and a little more of my zinc. Let's pull in a little of this here, just back and forth. I'm back my brush. That's how I'm keeping it loose. Okay, I'm holding it back. I'm not trying to be tight and detailed like I am with these branches. I'm wanting to come back and be loose. Pulling this in. All right, just lightening this front value up a bit. I love painting. It's so much fun.
I'm really lucky. I get to watch you paint, which is a lot of fun for me.
I'm going to add a little white to my brush. And I'm going to tone my blue back with some of my burnt umber. But it's a very light value that I've got going here. And I'm going to start kind of pulling this across. You can kind of come back like this. Now, one thing that you can do when you're trying to make something really have that sort of ice feel is you can do some vertical strokes in there. The trick is that you can't get diagonal with them or they'll pull it off for you.
Yeah.
Now, there's this weird kind of warmth going on, so I'm going to pull out my yellow and maybe even a little of my brown. I'm going to get a lot of my zinc. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to try to make sure that I've got this happening here. Pull some down. There we go. There's our ice. Can you see it?
Yeah.
So it's really what you're doing is you're liking that. There we go. I'm just tipping that back a little bit so that there's this sort of reflection or space or something happening. And I think I want to take this back a little bit stronger. I'm going to get right into my blue. And I'm just kind of clipping that stream edge. Can you see that?
Yeah.
I just didn't feel like it was I want it to be. Now you can always come with just your blue or your blue and a little black to deepen or darken the edge of your stream. Tap that in, pull it out. I'm going to bring this darker area up here. There's like little cracks and things, right? Pretty good, pretty good. You might want to talk a little bit of a dark value, maybe right here in the center. Shadow. I'm going to grab some white, zinc white. And just make sure that I've got some nice, maybe one back here. Faintly. There we go. Look at that. Now it's all frosity froze. Let's look. Is that stream frozen?
Yes, he's very cold looking.
Scrabble a little bit back here. Just making sure I'm like happy with what I've got. That's all you're doing. You're just always dancing with, am I happy with what I have? You know, am I happy with the shadow? Am I happy with the... I'm just bringing the shadow closer to this bank. Wouldn't even see the shadow here, but we'd see it at the grass, see? I'm just valuing that as we're going. Grabbing a little of my white and fixing my little bank here. All right. Happy, happy. So I've got my water in. I'm going to get some more of this stuff in, but first I've got to kind of talk about this tree. So I've got this tree. Let me kind of draw in my trunk and everything, and then that'll help me put in my shadow, because the tree leaves what? It leaves a physical shadow, right, where it blocks light. And it also has kind of an environmental space that it's impacted, where maybe rain or sunlight is consistently not getting to things underneath it, or how it may have sheltered this little area from, say, snow, right? Or maybe it collects water in the leaves and it comes down and it melts this little area. These are little tells that make our landscapes more interesting and better.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Just something to think about. So on this tree, I really had a lot of fun kind of finding this shape. And I wanted to do something very different than what we have been doing. So I'm just trying to make sure my base trunk shape is similar to the guy I initially designed. And then he's here. Now, one of the wonderful things about this tree for you guys is that you're taking the branches right off the canvas. Right? See how easy it is to erase all this. So easy. Brush is just slightly damp. It just takes the chalk away. So I really got to kind of capture my shape. I want to capture that environmental space and get it put in. So the first thing is to create this environmental shadow. And I'm going to use a little of my, I'm going to use a little of my brown and my blue. I'm going to get a little of my blue and a lot of my brown. A little of my blue and a lot of my brown. And I'm going to come here under, and I'm going to go back and forth right off the canvas. Right. There we go. Right under here. Maybe there's some of this that comes back this way. There's a little runoff that might be happening. I changed the bank line again. Go me!
Yeah.
Happens. And I'm just coming here. I'll just pull this back. Pull this back. And so you can kind of see where it feels like this snow is maybe open and exposed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I have that, I might even come in even further with some black. Kind of deepen that. I've got the basis of what's going on here. Once I have that basis, it's going to be really plausible for me to come in, paint my tree, and then give it some really cool... I'm going to paint this with a round. So I'm going to paint in my tree with a number 4 round. And the reason I'm picking this, I might do a number 6 if I had it. But I wouldn't want anything smaller than a 4 because I want to get in a lot of little branches and I want to get in the trunk. And this tree, my number 4 cat's tongue, or a bright that you're really good at doing your trees with will all do this for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to start with my black and my brown. Hopefully not too gummed up to work. And a little of my Indian yellow. This will be important all later.
Mm-hmm.
But let's start with the basis.
All right.
So our tree is always going to be thicker. Right here, right?
Yeah, let's get in and zoom in on that.
As I'm coming up, talking about my trunk. You may need quite a lot of something to seat over your black. We'll be lightening it up a lot as we go. And shadowing it and doing a lot of shading. This is a much more like, I'm going to continue to use this to add this shadow even deeper in the space, just right under here. Maybe pocket it in here. Sorry. Just taking advantage of the opportunities. Now, one thing you can do is if you're really struggling to see, you can get a little zinc in there and not lose too much of what you need to know what's going on with the tree. Because we're going to be putting in this tree shadows and highlights. So really your first goal is to kind of create a structure and to capture, almost like figure painting, as much as you can the tree's form.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to get my glasses on so I'm not struggling through this. I don't want you to struggle either. As I'm coming up the tree, right, it's kind of darkest down here, but as I'm going to come up, I'm going to actually lighten this little fellow at a particular point and take it into the yellow. I think actually I want this joint to be shorter. So watch me erase. Pretty easy to do. I'm going to just erase this little area because I want this joint to not be quite as long as I had it. More into the black. When you're putting your trees up or you're doing anything, just know that, you know, if it goes a direction you don't love, you're not stuck. One of the nice things about this background is it's so easy to reclaim a space that you need. So it's an interesting joint. I'm going to be like more in my Indian yellow and a little in my zinc, but it's still kind of mixed into the black here because the tree's going to get lighter as it comes up. At this joint, I'm going to start to come here. There we go. Let's see this a little bit. Just do our best to match these little suckers up. Switch waters. The waters are too low. All right. Paint this little guy in. Oh, there we go. I'll make my turn, but I know I don't want it as long as what I have here. Into the lighter color, which is good. He's going to be more. Now I'm going to thin my paint a bit. See if I can't capture the bobbly tree shape. So you see I'm kind of making this knot more of a defined area, and I'm going to come in a little bit more there. Bring it in here. How's everybody doing? I know this is like
Doing really
crazy, and it is a bit like watching a tree actually grow in real time. But once you get it in, that's when it starts to all come together. So this is like a crazy series of joints, but trees, they actually do this stuff.
Rain Panda was saying that really like seeing your hand reflection in the canvas. Because apparently when it was real wet, you could see your hand's reflection.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
That's kind of cool.
as you're painting it, that was pretty neat.
I'm going to bring this on up. And then it's going to get a little thinner up this branch. There we go. Now we got the main stalk in. Or regardless, this is where my main stalk is going to go now. Tree is planted.
Huh.
So because this brush does a lot of stuff, one of the things that I can do is absolutely paint in a lot of, fiddly, crazy stuff as I need to. So one thing I need to paint is I got to bring a little branch over here. So I'm going to pull one out. I'm going to take it here. We're going to just start pulling out our branches. And hopefully you can already see I'm putting in a little more white in as we go up. You can already start to see how you're going to be coming back. You're going to be highlighting all the stuff that's going on. I like to give my brand like elbows and joints a great joy to me. All right. So one of my problems is all my materials far from me.
So for making those little dobby bits, you need to get a little closer, huh?
I need to be able to reload often.
You can actually pull that right close up there if you want.
Oh, I'm good. So we don't often move the easel or the pallet, so you wouldn't necessarily know maybe that your pallet is movable. Just making sure on the ones that are going kind of far out, I'm going to want to lighten them up a little bit. You see how I'm lightening them up?
Uh-huh.
We're just painting.
Just zoom in on those branches there.
So many tree branches. We got this nice little fellow coming here. Add my highlight while I'm at it. Really nice to get it in when I can. I'll be tapping it and working it later, but just blocking it in can be lovely. Come in on the tip of my brush. Try to paint these as finely as I can. As many as I can. I'm going to be coming back after I scrub in some of my little clouds. Initially, when I first did it, I just put in all my little clouds and then added branches to it, but I realized that that would be really challenging if you didn't have the tree exactly in your mind. So we're just going to block this in, and then anything that we lose in our leaves, we'll just put them back. So you've just got to get it in this far for this stage. I'm going to add this little knot. I'm going to kind of put one out here. You can see how I kind of added this start, and so that can become a joint. the biggest thing between you and successful trees is like making the breaks on your branches seem believable, and also making sure that the branches are long enough. Everybody wants to stop their branches too soon.
Now, are you still using the Indian yellow to get this color?
Yes.
Okay, because we just we're not seeing your.
Yeah, this is still the Indian yellow in my black.
Let me back out so you can see that.
Yeah. So I'm sorry for this part, guys, where I had to move the easel.
Yeah, you're gonna show them there that you're just.
It's just too far from me and at a crazy angle. And I'm gonna start moving other things instead of moving myself.
Yeah.
Give that advice all the time. Seems like it needs a little bit happening there. So we've got some stuff happening up here, right? We can see it. Some things are afoot. We're going to lose some of our things, but that's okay. We're going to put them back when we need them. Now, there is another branch off here, but I actually think it might be nice coming from here. I'm going to change it. You don't have to. Sometimes I will look and go, oh, I want that to change. And that's one of the great privileges of painting your own paintings, is you get to make up what is important to you.
Yeah.
And how it's important to you. Okay, so we're doing pretty good. How you guys feeling?
Good. This is really great.
Get a little of my black on here, because I was losing it and it was getting too yellow on me. Now right here, I'm going to almost have this be, into the trunk, right? A little foreshortened. This little branch is going to have a little elbow. One of my favorite ones I did on this tree. I'm rolling off and reloading my tip. Maybe a little bit here. We're just creating a little structure that you could put some leaves on. We just want one there. And he can have a little friend. But this time on the little friend, where I've got the joint and the little friend, I'm going to... make some different interesting decisions. Making sure that I've got nice flow in my paint. You can see me just putting in these little branches. Enjoying my little branches. Little branch kind of comes out, and this one can curve out of this one. It really is sort of fun to put them in. Yeah, they're just really simple to just put in. And then if I say that and you're sitting there not having a simple time, one, forgive me. I understand sometimes we're all having a different experience. I'm going to put this little break right here. This is sort of like a little dead branch. And then over here, clearly we've got to have some friends. Let's come up here. Make a little knot. Make a little place that a branch would grow out of, right? A little nodule. Let's just pull this one up. Let's grow it long. Let's take it out. We're lightening our brush pressure. So how is your brush pressure? How is the fluidity of your paint? How is the edge of your brush? Because if one of those things is out of balance, it can be really hard to do your trees. And a little cantankerous little branch right there. And there's some little cantankerous branches off of this little fellow. There we go. We got another little kind of weird little dude there. Lots to do, so going along. Get some water on here. And I'm just making sure that my load is good and that the things that I need. I'm going to make another little kind of bump or weird tree character here, and I'll take this branch right on out. Kind of come up. Yeah, maybe over. Isn't that fun?
Yeah. It's coming together.
Yeah, it is. Fun stuff. Pulling these out. Just giving these little bits. I mean, because we're going to be coming back with our black and everything, so you just have to know where some of this is. Now, once you have this base structure in, definitely evaluate your trunk. Make sure, you know, you don't have some crazy space that means you have to thicken it up down here in some way. You know, the base of this, which is really nice, is quite dark. I think it's fun to start staining that early. We got so many colors in this trunk, don't we?
Yeah.
All right, let's take a minute, sip our coffee, and evaluate before we put in our little leaves, which we've done before and we know what we're doing. How is our painting?
Lovely. This is just turning out really, really nice. And I was just glancing over here. Everyone's really just like, wow, they love how the snow has come together, the way that it feels like winter. This is really nice.
It's just, for such a cold painting, it's super upbeat and uplifting. It's serene.
Yeah, the colors are really nice.
Yeah, I like pieces that I can look into it and I feel myself become restful in relationship to them. It's really a joy for me. All right. Number 4.
Number 4.
Right, we're going to be scrubby. And we know what we like to scrub. We like to scrub a little of our burnt umber if it's not completely dried out on us
I think
yet.
our palette is inched over there as we've...
Well, because I probably put it back down where it would be more comfortable for me.
Okay. Maybe I should probably tilt the camera then.
I think we're going to actually have to have a day where we're like, where does it need to be?
Yeah. We got to move things around again.
We do, but there's so much moving around coming that I haven't really done anything. So I'm going to take my brush very lightly, and I want this to be, you know, yellow here, so I'm going to make sure you can always get some zinc if you need to. I'm going to just put some of these little weird leaves, right?
Yeah.
So this is almost like clouds, and I will be painting some of my branches back, and that's okay. I'm going to come down here and, you know, chances are that my Indian yellow and burnt umber will be so light that the branches I painted in will mostly show through, and I have so much shading to do on them, it won't even impact me in a bad way. See, you go right over it and you still see it. Let's put some leaves right out here in what feels like the air. That's hard for you guys, to put the leaves out in the air. You really, really always want to explain every leaf by a branch.
It's hard.
It is. Very hard to let go and just leaf. Let go and leaf.
Leave it alone.
Leave it alone, you. Oh.
It's like,
I'm just adding sometimes more burnt umber to my mixture. You can see I'm putting lots of leaves where I don't have branches yet. Sometimes you don't have the branches yet. More zinc on there. And this one actually is in front. Some leaves where there isn't any. You know. Branches. Go out on a leaf. It's literally go off the limb onto a leaf. I'm going to not stop with this. You'll have to stop me. It's a problem. I love this, and it's sometimes kind of nice to even add a little back here to the distance. Soft. But I love this color against the gray. Everything about this is just my favorite. It's warm and cold at the same time. You know, which is always great. You know, it's fun to like tap out different depths and dimensions, and you can always get right into that sink and lighten everything up. I can put some of this here. Well, I've got it, right?
Yeah.
A little bit. You can see me just lightening up. Some of it, not all of it. It doesn't all need it. Doesn't all need to lighten up. But a couple little bits can. To show some dimension. So we're getting there. Got a nice little tree here. We've got a nice little space up here. And there needs to not be like a lot of leaves, because that would be just a whole big weird waste. The tree's already, you know, done its thing where it, get a little of my brown here. Add some brownness to these leaves. Maybe these are here. See this a little more brown over here.
Yeah.
Just some distant soft ones up. Look at these. I'm just flipping my brush and just not putting a lot up, man. Some.
Yeah.
Some. How's our some? Let's see your some.
Look, looking good.
Some looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Now we get to paint this whole tree. And I'm going to treat myself to some fresh paint, guys, because my studio's hot and dry from the lights, and it bakes my paint, and then I don't love it.
Yeah.
You should not be having this experience where it dries this fast. But if you are, put a little less though, because we don't need that much to finish the painting. Because we're almost there.
Yeah.
We need to lighten over here a little bit and a couple other things, but mostly we're good. So I'm putting my burnt umber out, put out my, doing these a lot together, so maybe I'll put my Indian yellow over by it. Put a little of my Prussian. I love this limited palette. You know, it's not a lot of colors to make this piece.
Yeah, no, not at all.
And then I do think the fluid is super helpful for the branches. So if you have craft paint or fluid paint, treat yourself to that.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, you'll have to thin your white and your black. I'm going to put these over here because they're really lovely. I'm going to put out a little titanium white and a little zinc. And we'll finish this little sucker up. How are you guys feeling?
Really
Have you ever
good.
treated like this? This
is
was such a ambitious piece.
Yeah, a lot of people were concerned that this was going to be a 3 hoot, but it's turned out that they're really excited to either do this or try it. So, because the colors and the snow turned out really nice.
You know, even if a 3 hoot is way above where you're at right now, just mixing the colors, just thinking about these shapes, just thinking about these layers is going to help you be a better painter. It really doesn't necessarily matter the outcome on your canvas. I know it doesn't feel like that, but it really doesn't, like for the purposes of you growing as a creative being. All right. My number 4. This is just a hair darker than the original, and I want it a little brighter. So I'm going to take a little of my burnt into my blue, and I'm going to go into my zinc. I want to lighten it up just a smidge. See how this is just a smidge?
Yeah.
And that's the nice thing about the zinc is it'll let me make adjustments in the space where I can lighten a thing a smidge real effectively. And it's just so, it's like a little pearlescent. It's It's a little light, and it just does some nice work. We're just lightening it up just a bit, right? See that lightening up?
Yeah.
Just feel like it's important. And sometimes it'll matter. Like, you'll be like, that's just too dark. And then you just, what you do is you come and you lighten it up. Just letting the paint do its work like it should. Just in highlights happening. They do. All right, we are ready for the big show.
Yeah.
So let's start with the base of this trunk, which is a bit of black and some burnt umber to begin with. Right? We're going to come here, and I'm going to be just tapping and kind of wiggling this bristle brush back and forth as I'm going to come up. I'm going to get a little more of my black right here. Come on the back side. Right. Coming along the back side, just taking that deep value. Get my glasses on so my eyes don't get fatigued. This is something I've been dealing with lately, is my eyes have been getting fatigued. I'm just trying to pretend it's not happening. But the internet said it's better to wear your vision assistants than to not.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So see, I've got this sort of dark value happening here. Now I'm going to get into my Indian yellow. And we'll start with my zinc. And when I get back into my branches, I'm going to have to get the palette back over.
That's okay.
So I'm going to come here and I'm going to start to lighten the front end of this trunk. I go back and forth. A little more zinc. We will boldly lighten it a little bit, but right now we're just starting to set up our textures and the feelings of our fabulous tree. Right here, we're gonna put this down, lighten this up. The basic tree shape is pretty round. Get a little of my add a little of this sort of warmth right here. For fun, isn't it? Just a little bit. Don't get crazy. I'm going to go right with that color right into my yellow, and I'm going to start smidging in my titanium now. I'm going to start creating this winter wood look, is what I would say it is. The wood looks like it's been hit by wind. It looks like it's had some experience. I'm going to wipe off my brush a little bit. Let's get some of my Indian yellow in here. I mean, it looks like the tree has been through some stuff, doesn't it? I'm right here with this. Just using this little brush. And sometimes I'll have to go back with black, and sometimes I'll go back with brown, but I'm just pulling these colors up the way that they pull through bark. Get quite a lot of our start to lighten this. Look at this, we're just tapping this light. There's definitely a nice little light tap happening right here. This is a lot to say once we get the a bit of our zinc like loaded on the edge of our brush. Come down, and then I'm going to have to blend back out. I need to create the sense of light. I'm going to just all right, just pushing in here. Can you see how so brushes have a couple of modes. Most of you guys probably think of brushes as additive, but they're actually additive and subtractive. And when you really start painting, you'll find you use them in both methodologies. Let me just do this dark here. Shade that out. All right, so we've got some trunk going here, don't we? Get some of our Indian yellow. We haven't even rinsed out. Some of our white. A little more of our white. Just tapping this along here. It'll come just on the inside edge here. We will be coming back with some dark values, but it's nice to get that sort of in, and then I'm going to start to highlight the center of the trunk here. And then even around that knot. See how that happened? So now I've got this here, and it's looking pretty darn good. I'm going to get some more of my pure yellow. I'm going to come and just add some kind of highlight little spots here that really pop all this. Lots to do on these little branches, but we will be over here with our small brushes to get it done. And I find it's best to figure out how to shade our trunk up. You know, how to catch that. And I'm not loving that little bit right there. I don't know if you could see it.
Which little bit?
I will show you in a second because I'm going to be trimming it back. I'm going to use the background. So right here, and we're going to be coming back with some very dark black. I'm going to trim this in just a titch.
Ah, I see.
Because, and here's why I did this. It was too thick for the size of the trunk below it. And when you have that, it can make your pieces feel less believable. I'm just erasing a bit. And that's the thing that you can do. You can erase. All right, I'm going to get a little of this in my yellow again. A little of my white. Give this a little highlight. A little imperfection. Give all this a little highlight. Maybe coming up here. And up this branch. I know it's a lot. Painting a tree. Really painting it. Pretty special. Alright, so I'm not going to rinse my brush off, but I'm going to get into my, even my fluid black paint. Maybe even my Mars black. I want a really deep saturated pigment. You can see my load. And here, I'm going to very softly brushing back and forth. And I'll even come under this a bit. Some dark color, and then on the back side, bring it back and forth. Up this a bit. Really here at this joint, it's sort of interesting. It gets a little dark there. And then I'm going to come right here. We have another little joint, don't we? Make sure that I've got, grab some of my fluid black, some really dark value. A little bit here. So now our tree's really starting to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, it's looking really good.
Wonderful little values happening. And now we've got to make sure that some of this is reflected through our tree, through the whole thing, right? Because I'm getting a little brown and a little of my Indian yellow. Sure. And up here. I've got a lot to do, but the big brush, so sometimes I vacillate between the big brush and my little brush because the big brush can do a lot of work real fast that I know I have to do. And then in my little brush, I get the work done. So we got a lot of work to do. Let's get our little brush. I'm going to keep using my number 2 filbert. Hopefully Hopefully I didn't let too much paint dry on. It doesn't need to go to the spa. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to be making sure that all these little branches are sort of reflective.
All right, I'm going to zoom in on there.
Of everything that's happening. So I'm getting my burnt umber in my black.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see it as I'm doing it. And I'm going to create a little shadow on the inside of this branch and a little bit right here at the joint.
Oh, I got to get my cameras right here.
I'm going to just be loading with black and coming underneath. Just making sure that I've got these dark not just light branches, but dark branches. It's sort of interesting. You need to have both. See that thing?
Yeah. Okay, I think. I think it's working. Hold on, let me go over and double check. It says all my little lights came back on and said it's working again. And I just want to make sure, because it's like if I look over and I see that you're live, fixing your hair.
I know. It's just. Have you ever had like your hair? It just goes wrong and there's no getting it back. I feel like a cartoon most of the time.
Let's see. They're all saying refresh. I'm trying to refresh my own screen. Is it working? Oh, yep. I see you fixing your hair. Okay.
Okay.
We're back.
Now we're back from outer space. That joint. It just. I think sometimes we forget to paint or shorten joints on trees. We're just painting each of the little branches instead of the shape of the tree. That's nice. Sometimes paint our shapes. So I'm just coming to the same side of each branch, right? It'd be like the right side of the branch.
Mm-hmm.
Now, chances are, get some yellow, haven't rinsed my brush.
Okay.
What's nice about this mixture is I can switch from my highlights and my low light very easily. Easily fix the shape of my branches. Easily make sure that each of them is believable in the space. Like he needs a little character here. His little character.
Yeah.
It makes a difference. And then I can just wipe off, get some black, and come back in and work the next one. You can just see coming out. Our branch is easy. Oh, everybody says.
I like the branches. This is a really great one.
This is a branch clinic in and of itself. You just get your yellow. Can you see how I just go back for my highlight and my low light color with very little difficulty?
Well, it's hard to see the palette cam. So it's I can't. We're not actually able to see your palette work.
So I'm now mixing my black and yellow mixture back into my white to highlight it.
Yeah,
So that's the black, yellow, and the white. Just creating some highlights on some of these branches, right? There we go. Highlighted, low lighted. Get some just mid yellow. So I just grabbed some yellow on my brush to just make sure that this little space has got some shading. Back into my black, because it just felt like it just didn't really have shading. I just want to make sure that these are each believable branches. Now I'm going to do an interesting thing here. I'm going to actually put a little shadow under here. And down a bit. Just because if you think where that branch is, you could think, oh, it probably would be. So I'm the brown and the black. And I will come underneath here. My black is running, but I don't care. And come here. Just a few. little branch here. All right, when I have the dark shadows in, I'm going to take a little of my black and my yellow again. Right, I'm mixing it right now, black and yellow again, into my fluid white to get my highlight. I'm loading my brush, and I'm going to come make sure I put some highlight on these branches. Just making sure. And when you're highlighting, one of the nice things you can do is if you make an overly thick branch, you can fix it then really easily. All right, there we go. We're almost done with the tree.
Yeah.
We're just working on, this is the part. I'm going to get some yellow, and it has some black in it and no white. And I'm going to come here and make sure that this is just a richer color than what it is. Coming down. You can kind of see how I did that. I'm going to get, without rinsing, I'm going to get right into my fluid black.
Now, how are you determining which side of the branch to shadow?
I'm thinking about where the sunlight could be hitting it or what's above it and what's reflecting. So that's how I did it. So if I'm shadow on this side, like I know like a branch, if it's like on the underside here, it might have one. And then as soon as we come over here, this would have one.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you're just thinking about it. And again, it's looking at the references, being like, where do I see on this cloudy day or within this tree, do I see these shadows happening? I'm just coming in and adding my... Now what's happening is I'm not getting a nice line, and some of that is there's paint drying on my brush as I'm painting, so it's a good time for me to swish it out. I'm going to get my brown, and my yellow, and a little black. And I'm going to make sure that there's just a little shadow right there, right, in the crook. Load up with my black. Coming here, and you can see how like some of my branches are almost invisible. Aren't they lovely though?
Yeah.
They're so lovely. And you can always go right into your yellow and your white. So I haven't rinsed my brush. I go right into my white. It's already got the black and yellow on it. And just add a couple little noticeable highlights. They don't have to be everywhere. You just have to have them in. See, so your tree's starting to have different shadows. There's different light sources. It feels more like a tree that you might see out your backyard. We're not painting a symbolic tree.
It's a symbolic tree.
What
does it symbolize?
We're painting the symbol of a tree, and maybe we're painting a very complicated symbol of a tree, right? But we're still painting the symbol. What's lovely about this is we're just painting a tree.
My tree symbolizes trees.
Does your tree symbolize trees?
Not all of them, but just that particular tree.
I have trouble getting my lines. I rinse out, get my paint, and I reload. Just making sure that each of these little branches, shadow here, highlights. If they already have highlights, then you're probably covered. You don't necessarily have to go back and do those again, right?
Mm-hmm.
You only have to put them where they're needed. Just giving our tree form. So a lot of this is that my brush strokes are very light. And John likes to say painterly, but what it is that I'm allowing the overall space of value to talk to you a bit about what you're seeing. My color. There's a knock. I don't know why.
Take care of that.
I'm going to keep painting in this branch. Oh, that's right. I do know why. Just painting this in. And we're about to say voila. These are light highlights, right? But they're there. And once we're happy with what we're seeing, then we're going to put in our grass and all of the shrubbery around the environmental shadow that our tree is leaving. And what I can say to you honestly is that it's fantastic to work on your tree. Spend a little time looking at it, to think about its barkiness, thinking about where you'd want like scars or bark to be pulled back, or wind damage, like what's happening on your tree and how are you going to paint that. And I'm doing all this so I can sip my coffee before I put in my grasses.
That's it then. We just have to put a little grasses in and then
company. We did not know we would have company today. We didn't know. All right. So we're going to start putting in these little bushes.
Yep.
We're going to take our brown and our Indian yellow, and we're going to mix them together, making a pretty deep color. And I'm going to start just coming up here and saying, oh, a little dry shrub happening here. Right? He's got a little friend, maybe he comes down. Start talking about what's going afoot. What's happening? Loading back up with my Indian yellow and my burnt umber. Coming here and just tapping out. You can see, when you hear artists talking about tapping out, what you're doing is you're making irregular brush strokes that kind of imply the shapes of things like bushes and clouds.
This is not artist MMA where you're tapping out.
No.
I give up. I tap out.
I don't want to do any of that. No art battle. I feel like, I think my, I'm going to add some of this here because, it would be there. And so as I'm building this up, building this space up, building these layers up, right? The next thing that I can do is I can actually come in and get into a little bit of my red, a lot of my yellow, but I still have the brown on there. Zinc to something, and let's just up another little highlight that's happening. There's some grass shapes. Look at that. Go grass. I love doing this because you just press in and pull up. See? Even go like this. Little grass shapes. Don't let anything get in your head about what you're painting. It's all just illusion anyway. More of this color right here. So I'm using the zinc to my advantage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe put a little bit of that highlight right there. Now I'm going to get a little strong with my zinc on my brush and maybe a little more of my yellow there. And I want to come here and just make this maybe a little more highlighted and thought out. A little bit here, just a smidge though, because it's far away. But I just want to see some of that, and then now it still needs to be darker there. Interestingly enough, though, that's going to be one of our big things, is getting that dark enough to feel like one of those places where the sun and the water. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to come around a little bit here into this bush. A little bit around this side of it. A little depth into here. You see how I'm adding depth?
Yeah.
A little depth in there. And it's okay to put a little depth in your grass if you need it over here.
Yeah.
If you need it. Did I just put paint on my face? I think I just
We're going to find out in a minute, aren't we?
in my space. I've got some little more shadow. I've got some shadows. I've got some stuff. So I'm going to take my Cad Red Light in my burnt umber and make a very light color here. I'm going to add a bunch of this Indian yellow to it and a bunch of zinc. Why do I like the zinc? Well, one of the things the zinc does is it doesn't make a pink. If I were to do white, titanium white, do you see how different it is from the zinc?
Yeah.
Just not the same color. It's okay. It's totally okay. All right, let's tap a little. It's still too light. Tap a little of this, a little orangey yellow base right here. Maybe there's a little bit of it here. So you're not looking for pink, right? You're looking for like some grassies too. Now I'm gonna get my brown. Add just a Cad Red Light to it a bit. Right here. Let's get back into our little brush. Palette back over, get our glasses back on.
Mm-hmm.
Because we got some detail work to do. So now I've got all that sort of in. I'm going to definitely get my Indian yellow and my brown and a little black together. Like you do. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to make some branches. Swinging those little branches out. Look at these. Just a little thing. Because these happen, right? These little twiggly bits. Who doesn't have a little twiggly bit that somehow survives all the storms and break one off there. Twiggly bits. And then it's very nice to get some of your white, more of your yellow perhaps. Make sure that you get a little highlight into these. They look a little weathered. That's what you're trying to do. I'm loading up with white each time just to make sure that I've got some on my brush, on the edge of my brush, so I can make my fine lines, so I can do what I gotta do. Now I'm gonna get my white over to my yellow. There's black over here, right? That's what I've been working with. I'm gonna make sure that I put some little grass-like marks here and there. Definitely as we come down here, I'm gonna maybe get a little bit of that. It's fun to get into the black. And also, let me rinse out, I got too much paint on my brush. Add some of these little plant-like blades of something afoot. Right? Along here. Maybe some right here. So we've got a little of that there, and it's a little more in dimension, and then I can go right back into my little brush I've been grassing with. A little bright color here. Just layer it up like you do. Little touches. And if you are happy, which I feel like I am, to examine your painting for anything you think it's missing.
Any last minute things?
Any last minute things. And if you are thrilled, if you are okay, then you can sign it. And here's the thing I would say about signing it, and I say this every time, which is that when you're painting, your signature is part of the composition.
Mm-hmm.
So either find a way to sign it where it is at least complimentary, not a distraction or disruption, at least complimentary. And if you're painting absolutely abstractly, where it's non-objective, and you couldn't tell what it is, it's probably best to sign it on the back.
Yeah, especially if you don't want people to note an orientation.
Yeah. I don't want white. I don't know. I mean, I don't want black. I don't know why I got black. Didn't even listen to my own advice. I'm going to get some of my Indian yellow in my white. Because against the snow, this will still show, but it won't be so intense. There you go.
Wow.
All in, all done, all finished. We did this 3 hoot, super intense winter landscape. And we did it together. And we did it live, which is crazy. I'll have to sip of water on that. I'm dehydrated now.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. This has been a really great group. Everybody's been really having a lot of fun in chat here. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you guys for coming and joining us.
Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at the easel really soon. Bye-bye.